Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy workday to spend about, I would say, 20, 25 minutes with me going over a product designed to prevent cheating in Canvas. Today, what we're going to do is talk about LockDown Browser and how the LockDown Browser can prevent cheating in the Canvas quizzing environment. What I'd like to do is, if we could hold any questions to the end, I promised I would record today's webinar. So that way those who couldn't attend, we would be able to provide a clean copy for their reviewing pleasure. But once I get through what I need to cover, which should only take about 20 minutes today, I will unmute the microphone and feel free to ask any questions that you have at that time. So feel free to either hold your questions at the end, or there's also a chat window in the Go-To Control Panel feature, which allows you to kind of chat questions along the way if you so choose to do that as well. And if you decide to use the chat feature, that's great. Feel free to chat your questions, and I'll read them aloud and then answer them the best of my ability. Okay, so what I'd like to do is start off by just showing you the instructor's role and just how easy it is to enable the use of LockDown Browser on a quiz in Canvas. And then what I'd like to do after that is actually transition and show you what the student perspective would look like, so you can get an understanding of how the student would actually use LockDown Browser to take an assessment. And then we'll touch briefly upon some of the admin settings, just in case you have any questions about the technical setup and pieces like that. So without further ado, let's log into Canvas as an instructor and let's show you how it works. So from the technical end, there is a simple LTI integration. And what that basically means to you is when you go into whatever course that you currently teach, I'm just going to choose this English course here. What you should see over in your menu bar over on the left-hand margin of the screen, and typically it's towards the bottom on the left-hand side, is this LockDown Browser dashboard. So what the LTI integration will do is basically display this dashboard for you to be able to enable the use of the setting on a quiz-by-quiz basis. So by clicking on the LockDown Browser dashboard, it will show you every single quiz that you've created in this particular course. So if you look over on the left-hand margin, you'll see all of my quizzes over here. To the right of my quizzes, you'll see there's a LockDown Browser column. And then to the right of that, right now, you'll see this Respondus Monitor Webcam column. This is a totally separate product. This isn't something we're going to discuss today. This is a proctoring solution for fully online courses, and it utilizes a student's webcam to record testing behavior. This would not show up to you, by the way, but I figured since it is showing up to you today, I just wanted to address it just quickly so you'd understand why it's there. But under normal circumstances, what you would typically see is just this LockDown Browser column, and that's all we're going to really focus on in today's presentation. So once I've identified the quiz that I want to require, and think of this as the last step. So you've created your quiz in Canvas, you have whatever quiz settings that you want to apply. The very last step will be to turn on the LockDown Browser security. Okay, so that's where you would do this from this dashboard. And when you go to the quiz, we'll take a look at this quiz here. You'll see there's a drop-down menu that says Modify Settings. So by selecting Modify Settings, you'll start to see some of these LockDown Browser settings appear. You'll see the only option here is to require LockDown Browser for the exam. So we're going to select this option here. And then you're going to see some additional settings expand in line. So for now, you'll see these Monitor Webcam settings. So we can just disregard these because, again, they don't apply. They wouldn't show up to you. But we do have some LockDown Browser settings that are available. The first setting that is available is called an access code. Canvas has what we call an access code that if you use this in your test settings, it basically forces a student to type in a password before they can get to the quiz. So think of it as implementing one more layer of security. So before the student can get to the quiz, it's going to ask them for some type of password. So you can either use the access code either in your test options when you're setting up the quiz, or if you prefer to use it here, you could use it in this area instead. So either or will suffice. It basically serves the same purpose. We just give you a couple of different areas to utilize that access code if you decide to use it. But for today, we're going to leave it optional. We're going to leave it blank. But under advanced settings, we do have some optional settings here. So I'm just going to uncheck these. So that way it would actually be reflective of what you would typically see. The first setting is locking the student into the browser until the exam is complete. And that is the goal of the browser, is to keep your students in that testing environment until they submit the exam for scoring. So we're going to use this option today. There is an early exit exam option. If there is a situation where a student becomes ill, whether they need to leave the testing area for whatever purpose, the proctor has the option of whether or not they want to allow the student to leave early. And that could be accomplished by using this exit password here. So I'm not going to use one today, but I am going to enter one in so you can actually see where it could be applied should you choose to use one at any time in the future. So this is just in those emergency type of situations where it may be applicable to allow a student out. If you want to allow students to use an iPad, all you need to do is simply check a box. And this would allow the student to use LockDown browser on an iPad device. All they would need to do is go to iTunes, download the app, and then once they launch the app and the setting is applied, then they can then use that app to take the quiz. If you teach any type of course that requires a calculator, we have a couple of different options to choose from. I think in nursing, maybe a dosage calculations course might require something like that. You have a couple of different options to select. You either have your standard calculator, which looks identical to like a Windows type of calculator, or something a little bit more robust, such as a scientific calculator, which would give you some more functionality to use. So I'll choose the more robust feature because this is why you can kind of see how both of them would work. You'll see that printing by default is disabled, just so you're aware. But if for whatever reason you want to allow the student to print out the assessment, you could turn on printing here, and this would enable a printing icon to show up in the student's toolbar. So in a circumstance where you might want the student to print out the assessment before they submit it for scoring to your Canvas gradebook, you can allow that feature to work. But by default, printing is disabled, but if you would want to enable it, you have that option here. So for today, I'm just going to select a couple of options for this quiz. And now I go to Save and Close to the lower right. Before I do so, I do feel it's important to point out that if you ever have any questions about any of these settings, each one of these settings has an explain link built into the end of each setting. So you can either hover over the explain link to provide some additional information of how the setting could be used, or if the setting requires a little bit more thorough explanation, then you could simply click on the explain link and it would open up a knowledge-based article that would give you further instructions. So basically, we're giving you some additional help and resources to help you understand what these settings are and how they can be used. Okay, so I figured I'd point that out before I save and close the setting. But now I pointed it out. When I hit Save and Close to the lower right, you will now see that this quiz has the LockDown browser in the name of the title of the quiz. And if you look in the LockDown browser column, you'll also see it's required in green. So visually, you can see that everything has been enabled the right way. And now it's up to the student to now use our LockDown browser in order to take the quiz. Okay? So that basically concludes the instructor perspective. So with that said, let's switch gears and talk about the student perspective, because the students are going to be the main users of the software. This will be the browser that they will need to use in order to get to the quiz. So there is an actual browser install of our software, but it's a one-time install. The install of the browser is a simple web link, and the student can install the browser to their own devices if they want to. They simply click on the link. It walks them through 3 simple steps to install the browser, and then if they're a Windows user, the browser icon will sit directly on their desktop. If they're a Mac user, then they'll find the Mac client in their application folder. So either place, they will find the actual browser itself. And once it's installed, this will be the browser that students use to take the quiz. So the important thing about our browser is that when you click on it, the first thing it's going to do is search my computer to see if I have any type of prohibited program running that I might try to use to either look up information, share information with my friends, whether it's a screen sharing application such as Snagit or Camtasia, whether it's an instant messaging program such as Skype or Facebook, and it's searching these programs and looking to shut them down. And the goal is to prevent cheating on the assessment by doing so. And you can see I actually have Skype open. So basically the browser is asking whether or not you want the browser to shut it down or do you want to shut it down manually. I'm going to have the browser shut it down since it's just much easier to do. And Skype has a couple of different executable file names, which you're going to see here show up a couple of times. And then once it shuts down those prohibited programs, well, then it's going to take your student directly to your Canvas login page. And then from here, the student will log into Canvas using their Canvas username and password. And then they'll go through the steps now in order to get to the quiz. So think of our browser as acting as a standard browser. So right now it's no different than any other browser that you've ever used in the past, before. The only difference is that when you use our browser and you launch the quiz, then you get locked into that testing environment. So right now I'm going into a course that I'm enrolled in. I'm going to the quizzes area, which is where I need to find my quiz. So I'll go there. And the student will be clearly easy to identify that the quiz requires the browser because it even says it in the title of the quiz. So if I click on that, we're going to take the quiz again. I have it set up for unlimited attempts for demonstration purposes. As you can see, I do a lot of demos. And then once we launch the quiz, well, now the browser will lock the student in. So now the browser is doing its job. So when you look around the screen, you're going to notice that there's some key pieces that are showing up that are not available to a standard browser anymore. So when you're looking around the page, oops, hold on a second. I got a little glitch here. Give me one more second. Here we go. Let me launch the browser again. Okay. All right, so when you look around the screen, what you're going to notice in the upper left-hand corner is that the ability to navigate, hold on a second. Sorry, I'm just having a glitch with my Canvas quiz. Just give me one brief moment. I apologize for the issue. We recently did a browser update, so I'm starting to see some very unusual things happening. So let's see if we can get things back on track here. All right, so I'm just going back in through the browser. I'm going to go back into my course. I'm going to go into the quizzes area one more time. I'm going to launch the browser quiz again. So we'll see if we can take this one more time. Okay. All right, well, I'm sorry, I'm just having some very unique behavior issues with my LockDown browser. So let me just try another assessment, see if I can avoid having this issue with another assessment. Again, we recently did some upgrades to our Canvas site. So our developers are probably in there still poking around as we speak, unfortunately. So let me see if I can find another assessment where we're not running into any type of issue here. So let me go to another course. Let me try another quiz. Let's try this Geography Week 6 quiz here. You can see it already has the LockDown browser enabled, so we're just going to go ahead and click on that. We're going to take the quiz again. And what you're going to see here is the LockDown browser tab is opening up, and you're going to see the ability to navigate has been disabled. So if you try to click on any of these navigation arrows, they've been grayed out. You notice if yeah.
Typically that first tab just wouldn't be open, right?
It wouldn't. I'm just having some technical issues with the browser.
We believe you. We believe you.
So I'm a little uncertain of what's going on. I know we did some updates over the weekend, and this is the first time I've launched the browser with our new demo site. So that could be part of the cause. But let me just try it one more time. And what I'll basically do is kind of talk through the behavior, what the browser would do versus what you're actually seeing on the screen. So how about we try that so you can actually get a really good indicator of what's going on here. So I'm going to kind of talk out of both sides of my mouth right now. I'm going to go back into the course that I was enrolled in. I'm going to launch that quiz that we turned on a few moments ago. So let's just go back to that quiz. In fact, we'll just open this up one more time. And let me tell you what you, here we go. This is what you should see. So I guess the third time's a charm. So here we go. So there is no additional tab open. We only have one tab open, which is exactly how the browser's supposed to behave. So you'll see that I am not able to navigate within Canvas anymore because the forward and back buttons have been grayed out. You'll also notice that the file edit menu bar has been removed. So the ability to copy, paste, print, and all those other types of functions that you could use in a standard browser are no longer there. You'll also see that your URL address field up here at the top has been stripped away. So the ability to type in another website has been taken away or removed. The ability to either exit out of the exam early has been disabled. You can even see it says you must complete the activity first before you close the browser. We've also taken away the minimize and maximize buttons for obvious reasons. If you look around the bottom of the page, you'll see that the start button as well as the system and application tray are completely covered over. So there's no way to get behind the browser because your alt tabbing doesn't work, your function print screen isn't working, dual monitors are blocked, virtual environments are shut down. Any type of quick launch or shortcut keystroke combination that you can think of is virtually blocked while the browser's in place. So the browser is doing a very good job at eliminating cheating on the device that we're using right here. So that's really the goal of LockDown Browser. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't change or modify any quiz settings in Canvas. So think of it as still a Canvas quiz. So if you like to add time limits, you can see I actually have a timer over in my quiz settings over here on the right. If you like to randomize a question order to kind of deter cheating in that way, I know question by question delivery is another great vehicle to deliver a quiz. So that way, if a student's ahead of another student and they're sitting next to each other, that they're not hopefully looking at the same question. All those other types of parameters that you might use that are all Canvas quiz settings would still apply because it still is a browser. There's really no difference other than we're locking the student in and preventing cheating. And if you like to use advanced formatting, the browser still gives you that ability, whether that means viewing embedded images, as you can see I have in my question number 1, whether that means linking out to areas on the web. As you can see, I have in question number 3, I actually have a hyperlink to an image. So if I wanted to link out to an area on the web, in this situation I'm taking a student to a Wikipedia page, what we're basically doing is we're opening up another secure window. So all the links on this page are being blocked by the browser. So no matter what I try to do, the search function doesn't work. All these links up here at the top are dead links. It basically gives you this little link indicator that says link is blocked up here in red. So that way the student is able to view the information that you want them to view. But the good thing is they're not able to manipulate the links on this page to their advantage to look up or share information. So it gives you that other secure window and provides that academic integrity as part of that secure window. And that allows you to go to YouTube videos. It would block all recommended videos for view, audio clips on different various websites. So whatever you want to link out to, you have that flexibility to do so. And you can either leave that tab open and simply, tab back and forth if you need it open to answer additional questions, or if it served its purpose, you can simply exit out of this tab and it goes away. If you allow for essay questions or word editors, you can still use that with the LockDown browser. The good thing is the browser will block any type of hyperlink from functioning. So if a student tries to, type in a Google hyperlink here, you can see it creates a link, but when I click on the link, it doesn't work. So you can still use all the functions of a word editor, but still have the ability to block any type of links from being created and manipulated for use. So again, the browser's blocking that as well. And up here, there is a toolbar. There's a toolbar that has a calculator, which is that little icon up here in the corner. So this is your scientific calculator. The standard would basically look like half of the screen. So this would be your standard over here on the right. The scientific calculator just encompasses more equations to work with. So again, you can have that open if you need to. If for whatever reason you need to insert symbols or utilize any other types of functions, you can use them from here. And I'd explain that there is that exit password. So in the event that you might need an exit password to allow the student to leave early, there's this Proctor exit feature, which you can click on and then type in whatever that exit password may be. So if the student becomes ill or for whatever reason they need to leave early, the proctor can use their discretion of whether or not they want to allow them to leave or just say, submit what you have, and then you can leave after that. So it's really just kind of giving you that option if you decide to use it. All right, so I know escape is futile until I submit this for scoring. Sounds like we worked out some of our bugs here, so everything is good. I'm going to submit the quiz. This now goes to the gradebook in Canvas. So at this point, I'm safely able to exit out of the browser by clicking in the upper right-hand corner. And then everything just goes back to normal. So I basically exited the browser safely. My computer goes back to where it was before. All right, the last thing I want to share with you before I take any questions is our website. This product is very easy to use from the instructor perspective. As you can see, it's really just a couple of check boxes in terms of applying some settings to the quiz. For the student, it's equally easy. All they really got to do is use our browser to navigate to get to the quiz. And really, it's at that point just a function of preventing them from doing certain things. But on our website, I do want to point out, if you go to respondus.com, click on LockDown Browser, we do have some demo movies. So I did record today's session, which will be available to you later on this afternoon. But if you just wanted a quick 3-minute overview or just wanted to see that quick video on how to turn on the LockDown Browser setting on a quiz, you could simply access the video from here. And this will give you just 1 to 2 minutes to explain how to use that specific function with the LockDown Browser. So these are always on our website. We do offer instructor training webinars. We usually offer 3 to 4 every month, and these are ongoing. These are free. These would be useful if you've adopted our software or if you decide to pilot our software and decide you want to get trained additionally at no charge, similar to what we're doing again today. You could always sign up and join these webinars for free. These are always ongoing, and we're always talking about best practices and new enhancements and features and how to utilize these functions in your online courses. These are not marketing webinars. We're not trying to sell you on the technology. They are simply training webinars to show you how to better use them to your advantage. And then we have these resources on how to get set up and get started using it right away. So we have some tips on how to install the browser, which could be useful to your students, how to turn on the LockDown Browser setting, which again could be seen through that simple video that I showed you there. But more importantly, also have a sample course syllabus that you can use. Because I know the hardest thing is, understanding it conceptually is easy, but how do you convey it to your students so that that way they're aware of what it is and how it works? So feel free to copy and paste what we've created here, make it your own, enter it in your course description or in your course syllabus, so that way it takes all the guesswork on what to say to your students. And then we do have, as Justin had mentioned, a free 2-month pilot. So if you want to try this free for 2 months, there's no obligation. You could try it for a summer term session if you want to and evaluate it in your own environment, and then you can make a decision based on your own internal evaluation. Okay, so that's all I need to cover. I did see one question come through, so I figured what I would do real quick is just read that question aloud and then answer that the best that I can. And then feel free to unmute yourself at that point and ask any additional questions that you have.